Hola familia, it's Alex. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. So today, as you guys can see for the title, we are doing the full review of the new Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity palette. This is a Mothership Mega palette. I'd asked you guys on Instagram or on my Insta stories if you guys still wanted me to do a review on this palette. This was sent to me for free for testing purposes from Influenster. I did not spend a dime on this palette, but since it's a relatively new palette and it is a holiday release, I wanted to share with you guys my thoughts, my opinions, and some looks with you guys that I have posted on my Insta stories that I learned that I could pull out through the archives and post them on videos. Duh, Alex. So I'm here to share with you guys my thoughts, opinions, and the whole review on this palette. But first, if you're new to my channel, welcome to the familia. My name is Alejandra. I'm an eyeshadow enthusiast with a dash of Project Pan. That is something that interests you. Subscribe, join us. And now without further ado, let's get on with this review. Look down notes. So if you guys are seeing me look down, it's because I took down some notes from this palette. Now, I've had this palette for about 2 weeks now, and I have done multiple looks with this palette. I mean, multiple looks. And you're going to see them popping up on the screen throughout this whole entire time, plus some swatches of the actual shadows, which I also did on my Insta story. So this isn't something new. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably already seen this and many different looks with this palette. So this palette is limited edition. It is $78. It is available at Sephora as well as Pat McGrath's website. This comes with 18 eyeshadows in it, and the majority of them will be shimmer metallic duochrome type of shifting shadows. Each of these little pans, I guess you want to call them, each of the pans are 1.1 grams of eyeshadow, which is pretty decent. I know a lot of you had asked me, how big are these eyeshadows? How can I see them? They're a little bit smaller than a quarter. So let me grab the quarter. I think I have it up here somewhere. So as you guys can see, here is a quarter, and it's almost as big as a quarter. Not exactly, but it's almost there. So that's a reference for you guys. So these are decently sized shadows. They're not super small and they're not gigantic either. So this is my first time ever getting a large palette from Pat McGrath. If you follow me of any type of videos when it comes to my eyeshadows, I have not been shy. I have not been secretive about the fact that I've wanted and I was intending on getting a large Pat McGrath eyeshadow palette. That was my goal. I at least wanted one. I really wanted to see what the hype was about, see what the colors were about, and I was able to get this palette. So I will start out with the pros and cons of this palette. It has a few cons, but very little, but I do want to point those out for those that are interested in this palette, because this palette is not cheap. If you're paying for this palette, I understand $78 can be pretty expensive for an eyeshadow palette, but it's not as expensive as her normal palettes. Her normal large palettes are $125, so you're basically saving about $50 if you purchase this one, and you're getting a heck of a lot more eyeshadow. Now, like I mentioned, this has the majority of it is duochrome, metallic-y, shimmery type of shadows. The downside to this is you're only getting 3 mattes. You're getting this chocolate brown here, you're getting this burgundy right here, and then this type of corally peachy. It's more like a salmony pink, like a salmon, yeah, I would say like more of a salmon pink. The good thing is you're getting the names of the actual eyeshadows on the back of here. I don't know if you guys could see that. On the back of here, you are getting the names of the eyeshadows. So you do get the names, which I appreciate. They're not imprinted in here, but they are on the actual palette. This is a cardboard packaging. I have seen quite a few people complain that this is cheaply made. Look, I'm gonna be honest and flat and blunt with you guys. I've always been, I don't care about packaging. I've said this a million times. So long as what's inside that I'm putting on my face is amazing, I'm good. You can give it to me in a little cardboard box and I'm good to go. I don't care. So for me having cardboard packaging, I kind of like, because it's a lot thinner, it's not as heavy as her eyeshadow palettes, and this is not light. It doesn't feel, if you own a Juvia's Place eyeshadow palette, you know that those are super light. This is not light at all. This has some sort of weight to it, so it's not cheaply made. So for me, I think that this is fine. I don't care about the design. I could care less about the colors. To me, whatever. I prefer to like what's inside. It does have a really nice mirror, which I have used to do my makeup. It has these little strings on the side, so it can sit up for you if you want it to sit up on your desk. So that's another good thing about this palette. Now, going back to the actual single eyeshadows, again, you only get 3 mattes. And the other downside to those 3 mattes, they're all deep and sultry. So you can't go with a neutral. I should put it down like this. If you're intending to purchase this palette, don't expect to get a very subtle look because you ain't getting it out of this palette. You can clearly see out of this color story, there is no subtleness to this eyeshadow palette. The most subtle you're gonna get is probably like this shade and this shade down here, which is more of like your yellow gold. Other than that, expect to get a sultry, smoky, very pigmented, bold eye look. Unless you just want to use the mattes very lightly, you are not gonna get a subtle look out of this. This is just, I'm putting it out there. Don't expect to get a subtle look. So this palette will give you that sultry look. Because those three mattes are very deep in shade, it's very difficult for me to not come out with a smoky eye, to not come out with something that's bold in my eyes. That could be a downside to some. I just want to make that very clear. Don't expect to come out with neutral, having a few transition shades. That's not what you're getting out of here. The point of this eyeshadow palette, I think that what she did was to allow us to be able to try her different type of formulas, those shades that we're always loving, those multi-chrome, those shifting shades, those very super foiled metallic-y shades. She was trying to put it in a palette where we can get a lot of variety out of it and not spend an arm and a leg. Because my understanding with her $125 palettes, you're getting 4 of her fantastic shades and then the rest are all mattes. So most people are like, I'd rather get all the colorful prettiness shady. Well, here's what she did for us. So I don't care that there's only 3 mattes. I don't care that the 3 mattes are deeper in shade. I have so many eyeshadow palettes that I could pull a transition shade in if I want to. I could pull an outer V shade if I want to. Bear in mind, there are some in here that I have used as an outer V, including today's look. Today's look, this one is a dark purple with some sparkle to it, but I used it on my outer V and you can't even tell that I have sparkle all on my outer V. I used this one as my outer V and this is a shifting one and I use this as an outer V. I also used this fuchsia duochrome as my outer V. This red one I've used as my outer V. So there's quite a few of them that I personally don't mind using as a matte outer V, not in my crease, but in my outer V where I need to deepen a look out or give it some sort of dimension to it with my colors. I'll use it on my outer V and I'm okay with that. But I understand if you need more mattes, take that into consideration. You're gonna have to pull out singles, you're gonna have to pull out another palette to kind of work with this. This is not a standalone palette for many people. For some it might be. For me, I made it work and I don't mind it. I actually enjoyed the shades. I enjoyed the colors. On the screen, I'm gonna show you guys some looks that I did. The very first look I used was with this palette was the very first video I filmed after I had my new carpet in here. I had the red long sleeve shirt. That was the most neutral color look that you will get out of here, which is basically I grabbed this shade over here with this brown on the outer V. That's really all. Like that's all I did with that look. Today, I forgot to film you guys. It's been one of those days where I just needed to put my makeup on really fast. But today I actually used all the purples in this palette. I put this color all over my lid and in my crease. Outer V, I used this purple shade right over here. In the center, I used this one just to pat it on. And then in my inner corner, I ended up using this one. And that's the look that I came out with today. Super simple, super to the point, but you could see some sort of transition going on. Like there is some sort of variation between the shades. There are 2 shades in this palette that I feel were a little bit redundant and were unnecessary. Like these 2 coppery shades right here, this one's a lot more, can you see like this is a lot more orangey than this one, but they're really similar and the same goes for these 2 right here. They have a subtle difference, but it's not enough for me to justify having those 2. Other than that, I don't think anything else looks the same. And again, I did my research because I don't own any of her large palette. I haven't purchased any of her limited edition ones. All I own are 6-pan ones and then those mini 5-pan ones. So for me, I didn't know. So I did look it up and I did read that in this palette, you are getting repeat shades from previous either limited edition or large mothership palettes that she has released. And those shades, if you do own many of those, are the first 2 rows, which is right here, these 2 rows right here, and then the last 2 rows right over here. The center rows, from my understanding, are all brand new shades to this palette. So that's another thing you have to consider. If you do own other palettes from her, the larger ones, is this worth the $78 for you? You're getting repeat shades. For someone like me who doesn't own any of her large palettes and was interested in at least one of them, this was is the perfect one for me. I get enough variation in here where I can make multiple looks, as you guys can see from all the pictures I've showed you guys, to being able to try out all her different formulas. I love her formula. They're super pigmented. This is super buttery, very minimal blending I've had to do with any of these shadows. I will say with some of these shadows, be careful how much you pack on your eye. You don't need a lot. I'll grab my finger and just sweep it over and it's enough for both of my eyelids. I don't have to re-dip in here. But for those that like to pack on and pack on and pack on, my advice to you is don't do that. Because I did notice that some of these are so rich in their pigment that after a few hours, I did see a little bit of creasing in some of these. That may be an issue for anybody that has hooded eyes, sunken eyes, deep set eyes. If you don't want it to crease, just try to keep it to a minimal or use a glitter glue to help you out to keep that in there. I have oily lids and I saw a few of them do that. It was warmer days. The humidity was a few days here or there that I was able to wear these and try these out and see how it worked. And the less is better with these eyeshadows. And you don't need a lot because they're very, very pigmented. I cannot tell you there's not one dud in this palette. I didn't hate any of these eyeshadows. None of these did not work with me the way that I wanted to. None of them did not give me the experience I was expecting from them. So for me, 100%, I love this palette. I am so happy this was sent to me. And being blunt and honest again with you guys, this palette I was considering purchasing myself. I was going to wait for around November for either the VIB sale from Sephora or to wait for Black Friday because I know Pat McGrath does have sales during that time. And I was going to take advantage then to try to get this at a cheaper rate just because I know $78 can be pretty steep. But for me, I'm very happy. I have no complaints really. If anything that I mentioned to you guys may rub you the wrong way with this palette, don't buy it. Don't spend the $78 just because it looks pretty, because you like the packaging, because everyone else is telling you to get it. Get it for yourself. If anything that I've brought up maybe might be something that you're interested in. I know a few of you guys already saw my swatches on Instagram and messaged me saying, I bought it, Alex. It looks so pretty. I can't say that anybody would be disappointed with this palette if you get it, if you know what you're expecting. 1, not getting many mattes. 2, bringing in palettes to help you with mattes. And 3, always having some sort of deep, fun, sultry, metallic-y foil duochrome type of look. This is not a subtle eyeshadow palette by any means, and I am not mad about that, let me tell you. I'm happy she did this because for me, it works out. I love these type of tones. I love these type of shadows. I love every look that I came out with, and it gave me a different look. I never had the same look over and over and over. I was able to change it up and make it look different from each other, and the colors were all just perfect on the eyes. I love it. I genuinely love it. All of these, they lasted all day. I didn't have any fading. I mean, it's amazing palette. I'm so happy with this palette in general. I'm just happy that she came out with it. I'm hoping she does this more often like Natasha Denona has done with us, where she's given us smaller palettes, $65, where we can purchase her palettes and not have to spend an arm and a leg on a palette and still try out the formula. If this, again, because I'm speaking without knowing how her large palettes are, but from what I've seen and what I have caught on is the formula is the same from her other palette. So I'm not complaining, you guys. This is really good. If you're interested in a Pat McGrath large palette and you don't want that bulky, heavy packaging, you don't want more mattes than the shimmers, you want more of those fun shades that she comes out with, this is definitely it. Get it, because I have a feeling this is going to be sold out. I kid you not, I don't think this will even last till Black Friday. I believe this will be hard to get. And I'm happy. Now, I will say, the other thing I do want to say, mine came broken. So these shadows are soft. They're soft to the touch. They are soft. So be careful with that. Don't dig your brush in these shadows because they will really pack up and pop up. You will get some fallout with these shadows because they are soft to the touch. So please just graze over these shadows and trust me, you'll get enough pigment for what you're going for. Those are my thoughts, you guys. I give this definitely 2 thumbs up. I could not be any happier with this palette. This is beautiful. I can use this all year round where I don't feel like it's only for a certain time of year, but I love the fact that it's jewel toned, that I can get more color out of it. I was able to try out out her formula, and I could care less about the mattes. I already have my favorite mattes. I love those shimmery metallic shades. You guys know that I always go for those type of shades anyway. So this is a palette that was made for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know in the comment section if you got this palette or if you're interested in getting it, and what are your thoughts on it. So far, I think I haven't heard anybody complain about this palette and saying it's horrible. So that's a good thing, you guys. You did a good job. I will put more videos right over here for your enjoyment. Until then, bye guys.